So I promised that I would show you how I use the lining template to rule up a sheet. So this is the lining template in its box. Yeah, a little PAScribe all over the box. And I put this on so that it stands up in your library, and it's pretty safe. The box is very sturdy. So get the lining template out, and you'll see. I'll show you. I'll do a longer video on this. The back side has a little box with some pins in it, and there's this flap which has these little bits in it to hold the template in place. So let's just put that back in there. So I've already taken the pins out, so I'm just going to show you how I use the template. So that's the template, and the first thing I do is I fold. I'm going to use the PAScribe gray pad. Fold the pad back, and then I line up. I'm going to have to turn this differently because I need to see this straight on first. I line that up, and I guess I'll use the red one. So I'm not going to rule up the shorter lines. I'm just going to, normally what I'd do is I'd line one of these grooves up to the line on the pad, and then I would rule that up. So it skips every other line. So it makes the line go from 6 to 3 millimeters, which makes it really good for writing with a biro or a Sakura jelly if you're writing smaller. So I've left the page in the pad. So I'm just going to do that. So when I'm ready to take the page out, because I don't leave the pages in the pad to write. And I'm going to look for, so there is a 55T there. So that tells me that this line and hole needs to be at the top. And there's a 55 here, so that needs to be on the side. And there is a 55 over here, so that needs to be on the other side. So let's get those two holes lined up. Get one of I call these the tram pins. So you have finer holes, which are the anchoring pins, and then these are the tram pins. So this allows you to move the template up and down the pad. Of course, once you get into that block, you run into a problem. You could either lift it. I would generally not do it. I'll show you how to do that. So instead of pushing them this way, obviously that's not 55, you push them this way so that the anchor pins hold it, the tram pins hold it in place. So I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to start with, every other one has a little line. So I'll look for the little line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So that's sort of lined up there. And then I'm just going to slide this up further along so that I want the little lines to line up with the little lines. So that takes it up just a little bit more. And then I can continue ruling those lines up, line to line, 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 line to line. And of course, this is an entirely new line. And once I get to that point, can you see that? Yes. I then take the tram pins out, and I take this out, and I take one of the little lines and I line it up to one of the other little lines. So I'm just doing that. Of course, there are ways to sense check the lines, because look, there's that 55 there. So I can line up the 55 on a line. And so they've all lined up nicely. So I am going to continue these lines, line to line, 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 line to line. Oh, there's no line there. Line to line and line to line. So it takes a little bit of work. We have a little gap here. Normally I figure all of that out. So that's how I rule up with the lining template. Now, I'm already putting the pad in place so that I can start my practice. So let's just turn this. Let's drop this because I was a little higher up so that you could see the whole process. And this needs to go forward so it's closer to me, otherwise I'm too far away from the writing. And I'm using the lift. See how high that edge is there. So when I put the page down, you get that movement. And what I first do is I hold the tool, I put my hand on the page first to see where I'm going to write, and then I turn the page so that I can get in the right place for it. I think one of the problems that a lot of you have is you put the paper down and then you turn your hand to try and match the paper, when the first thing you want to do is just put your hand on the table and just wait. And, just sort of get relaxed. And once you're relaxed and you sort of attempt to write, turn the page so that it matches the position that you're going to be working in. So again, I'm using my little ashtray to hold the bottle. And I sort of put the bottle in like that, so it's at an angle, and I just sort of swirl this around. Now, I do have, where's it gone? It was just here, Oh, you can hear the ravens, how wonderful. Oh, love it. So this is a great little holder that I have from Tom's Pens. So this works equally well, and it's really beautiful. It's so cute. And so the jar sort of sits at an angle. I want it a little bit higher because of how I dip. So I'm just going to start writing. So the first thing I do is I just take a little piece of paper and I just go 2, 3, just to make sure that there's enough ink in there. And of course, I can already feel that ink is quite, it's a little bit on the thick side. It's funny, I have no water here, which is really bizarre. Let's see how we get on. So the other thing I do is this might sound a little pedantic, but I make sure that if I'm writing here, that when I go to dip, that the bottle is in a position where if I go in to dip, like if it's there, then, that's a problem because you might touch the side of the jar. So it needs to go into the jar without having to move your hand too much. So little things like this I find really useful. So this is day 5. So I'm just going to do a little. And today is the 10th of the 10th. It's so distracting hearing the ravens out there. So great. There were like 10 of them outside. So what am I going to do today? So one of the first things I do is You'll probably notice that, I just write out some text. I'm just sort of thinking, and I write the text out as it comes because my aim is to just get the writing going. Today's Monday. And as you know, one of the things I'm trying to work on is smoothness of line, no shaking. Already I see a little problem there, so I need to concentrate on that. I'm not seeing any of those little sharp bits that we talked about the last time. Let me just zoom in to show you what that is. You see that little kink right there. And these lines are quite smooth. So I'm just going to shut up and do some writing. So a couple of the things that I've just noticed, you see I've put some little arrows in because the line sort of destabilized and I'm not sure why that happened. The fact that it's happened here and here on opposite sides tells me that I'm either having a problem with the minute control that I'm having with the tool, or the tool might have worn away in a certain direction. So I need to, let me get a magnifying glass to look at this. So I'm looking at this under magnifying glass and I can see that it's not a point. There's a tiny little edge there. And so I can't control what happens because I'm thinking that this is a point and this is a little edge. So I'm going to do a little bit more writing and sort of feel what's happening. Now, one of the other things, just from doing 4 days of practice, now I'm very conscious of how I'm writing. I'm always thinking what's happening and I'm not looking at some text. So of course, I had you write the lorem ipsum a couple of months ago. Here, I'm just writing text that comes to mind. because I'm trying to feel what's happening with the nib. I'm trying to feel what's happening in my hand. And I was doing quite a lot of note taking on Friday. And I found after doing 4 days of writing, of this kind of writing, that my note taking on Friday was different because I was able to write lighter. I was a little bit more conscious of the writing process. And whilst I'm writing, I keep thinking, just remember to relax your hand. So you need to get to the point where you're really feeling what's happening in the hand. Is it holding the tool too tightly? Is the fact that the hand is holding the tool diminishing your ability to respond to the surface? Are you really sort of gripping the tool that tightly that you're actually shaking a little bit? So I'm being really conscious of this because this is something that I recognized. The practice from last week affected my everyday handwriting. So maybe it's something that you want to consider as well in your everyday handwriting. So I'm just checking to see how the lift is going to work here. Just to check that the ink is flowing. So, issues. So there's a little wobble there, there's a kink there, and I was being conscious of what's happening at the nib, and I sort of felt the nib shift, and I really feel that happened because of that little edge. But what I'm also being aware of is, can I write a Copperplate script with that little edge? So, I don't have to throw away this nib just yet. So it's a consideration. So I'm moving from a sort of upper wrist, or rather a lower wrist. So this is my lower wrist. A sort of upper finger, lower wrist, because this is what I used to write with most of the time. But I also use some muscular movement. And then, of course, to do this, I'm already thinking upper finger, lower wrist, upper finger. So you see this is moving as well. So this is moving up here. And this is moving here. So that's on the muscle. And I'm planning from here. I'm already planning. Oh, I have space to fill. So start thinking to go from here to the muscle to the whole arm movement. So, all of it is planning. You have to plan it. I mean, it doesn't magically happen. Oh, a little bit of hair there. So, of course, these are English round hand letters now. Massive piece of hair there. Still there. That's based on a French ronde P that I've sort of fallen in love with after teaching my French ronde class. And I'm really feeling the ink starting to thicken up. So I really, at this point, I should be adding, a drop of water to it. VWX. And again, an X based on the ronde. and an ampersand based on the rond. So all of these are up on, you can purchase the Shopify, on the PAScribe Shopify site, you can purchase those handouts, or you can do the rond course that I have up on the scriptorium. And again, a Z based on the rond. Just barely see those, so they're really delicate. So just playing with some offhand flourishing from the American tradition of writing. So that's my practice today. I'm exhausted. Right, so before I go, so if you don't like looking at saliva, I suggest you stop watching the video now. So this is an old, so obviously you've seen this is from use last week. So what I do is I generally spit on that little bit there. And then I put the nib in it on the top, pick up some of the saliva and I rub it on the underside. And then I fold the edge over like so. And there's still saliva on that. I then very gently wipe it off. And what that does is it sort of creates a little paste of salivary amylase, which is slightly acidic. So what I'm not doing is I'm not pressing the tines open. And the saliva will start to work its way in between the tines. So I do this 2 or 3 times. And then it cleans the nib. Lost. And then it cleans the nib of any ink or any writing fluid. And you know, I sometimes dip it in water, but I find when you're dipping it in water, the water can go up into the ferrule. So being really conscious of how you manage to clean the tool is really important. All right, so that's my practice for today. I will spend some time looking this over and making some additional notes once the ink is dry so I don't smudge it. And I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope it helps. Please leave a comment. Let me know if there's anything you want to know about. Let me know how you're getting on with your practice. I am planning to open up this practice so that you can join me, so that we can sort of have a conversation about it, but obviously it won't be on Instagram. So I will do some posts about that soon. Thank you very much.